let us begin.
All right, so I'm going to showcase my 60-card Eldlich Cyberse DPE pile. It's just one of the
bass.
Yeah, it's just like one of the best.
We're gonna call it put some bass in your voice.
It's great. It's super consistent. The theory is like one card combos, like all the Cyberse cards, are just really good for longer tournaments because they do the same thing like off of one card, and they don't need multiple cards to really do much. So. We'll do the Cyberse package. We play 3 of the Firewall Guardian, we play 3 Dotscaper, and 3 Cyberse Gadget. So these all basically function the same way. They do exactly what you want to do, no matter which one you draw. Firewall comes back when you link it off, and then it gets banished once it leaves the field again. Dotscaper will come back again if it's sent to the graveyard or if it's banished. And then Cyberse Gadget, when it's sent to the graveyard, it summons a Cyberse token. So you can see where we're going because you're getting 2 bodies on field, and we can kind of explain it more, I guess, when we get into the extra deck. But these, in and of themselves, are their own, 1-card combo. Going on to the next, we just play Scythe because Scythe is Scythe. We play the Eldlich package, which it's kind of small, but it all does basically the same thing. You want it to do is just kind of float into more resources.
Look how beautiful these are.
Yeah, they're so. I've had these for so long too. But I mean, a lot of people would argue that playing 2 lords better because, what if you get a lord banished? Well, usually you're playing your resources a little bit smarter with this, so you'll have a Sanguine set to bring it back if they try to banish it off of anything. And these just float. So they're a floating engine that kind of dodges certain hand traps like Nibiru. So if your board gets Nibiru and you still have 2 of these, you still have plays going on the next turn. And if you were playing a combo deck or a more streamlined combo deck, you get hit with Nib at the right point. It's just your combo's dead. Your turn might end at that point unless you have the right extenders. So these just float, and their interaction on your opponent's turn, and they can be sent off souls, which we'll get to in a bit, just to kind of gain you infinite advantage. It feels like.
It does feel that way.
It's so good. And then we got to play the hero package. This is just kind of standard. It's part of the mainline combo with the Cyberse cards.
So beautiful.
Then Foolish functions well with the Cyberse cards, it functions well with Eldlich, and it also functions well with the adventure cards.
Look at how
So it's pretty standard at this point. I think the only difference is, and something that people are catching on with the 60-card piles, is playing 2 of the Fateful Adventure. You can send 1 off of Souls reliably. A lot of times it baits interaction with your opponent, so they'll Ash it or they'll Ogre it. And having the second copy just kind of puts your grind game a little bit further than your opponent's, because once you search this and can dump it, or you can keep finding ways to send it to the graveyard, you can keep triggering this, and it's just this just gets you more bodies on board and kind of keeps the resource game up. Then we play the Souls package. I was considering cutting this down to 5, so I would do 3 Souls and 2 Illusion. This just seems like it works really well, how my side pattern is. The 6 is just better. The Souls is good because you can send any of these cards and you don't lose resources if it gets Ashed or Gamma, and then you're just alright, well, that was a fine interaction because these float in the end phase.
Yep.
You can also send Dead Rights, Dead Adventures. You can send the equip spell from your hand and then re-equip it. There's just good cards to send, and it functions as an extender and also drawing you into certain pieces. So into the hand traps. The theory is you just want to play the most impactful hand traps, and things that'll just stop your opponent or really slow them down, if you manage your resources well. So Token Collector stops Nibiru if it's already face up on the field. It's good against the adventure cards. It's good against the Howl combo where they go into Auroradon. It's just overall really, really good. Beautiful. It can hurt you though if you're trying to do late game plays where you're going into the Link Devotee to summon tokens because you can't get the tokens if this is on field. But at that point you should be playing smart enough to already have it off field. Ash is standard. I like Ogre at 3, but I don't feel cutting any of these hand traps to 2 is correct. Ogre feels fine at 2. It's preferable at 3 just because of how impactful it is this format. But Droll doesn't feel right at 2, Nib doesn't feel right at 2, and Lancer doesn't
those
feel
are
right
the ones
at 2.
you want to see more.
Exactly. They're more impactful, debatably. Droll, just because in general, Droll's really good. If you play against the right deck, it can shut them down. It also
skip your turn.
Yeah, exactly. So against certain decks, it is just a skip your turn. Even with the mid-range decks, the other 60-card piles, if you Droll after their Enchantress or whatever, it hurts them a lot because it shuts down Red Rose's effect, being able to summon and then keep adding, and being able to have the extenders. So it's kind of like lingering good. Then Nib is just Nib, and Lancia is Lancia. I mean, this is good against the adventure cards. It's good against Tinny monsters. I mean, it's good against like Eldlich.
Shuts down, it slows down the PK.
Yeah,
PK
exactly.
Or shut them down.
It slows down PK if you have a lot of PK. So it's like, I don't know. The hand traps can be toyed with if you want, but I feel personally like that's the best ratio. It's just worked out the best for me, and I really haven't had the desire to like change it since I started playing that. And then we can get into the extra.
Yep.
We play Link Karibo. This just helps your Verte and your Artifact Dagda like play around infinite permanence. It's like also good going into Eldlich because like if they don't have access to Golden Lord, you just like wait until they try to do it, and if they have no interaction like outside of that, this just kind of like carries the game. So here's like the combo, like the starter. These all take one level 4 lower Cyberse monster. So any of like the 9 Cyberse cards you play, you just link into this immediately. They either spawn a token or come back. You make this. This is a mandatory trigger when it's summoned to lock yourself into link 2 or lower monsters. You use his effect to tribute Devotee. You draw a card and put a card back to the bottom of the deck. Then when this card is tributed, it summons 2 Cyberse tokens. So you'll have 2 Cyberse tokens. You use one in Devotee to go into Dagda. You use the other one to go into the second Devotee. Mandatory trigger, Dagda triggers, setting the Scythe, and then you use these to go into Anaconda. And then you just end on like the Anaconda Scythe block, which needs to be touched. I think I don't think Dagda is necessarily the problem, but I definitely think Scythe has to go because Scythe will still find its way into decks. Like Baron can bring it back, but that's like a whole other conversation. Then we play Link Spider for like the Nibiru token and also the tokens that spawn off of like Cyberse Gadget. You can just go into Link Spider there. Then we play 2 copies of Anaconda.
So the one thing to explain the Anacondas.
Yes. So the 2 Anacondas is basically just like expecting to get Nibiru'd in your combo. So when you go Dagda and you're doing your normal combo, people generally know like the route you're going. And the set Scythe and like the Dagda unfield aren't going to do anything without something to pop the Scythe. So when you make Verte, they usually Nibiru you there. So you get the Nibiru token, Verte's off the field. And if you have like another extender, you use the Nibiru token to go into Link Spider, and then you just make the second Verte, and then you stick the DPE. The DPE is very necessary in this, because it's one of like the most reoccurring resources outside of the Eldlich cards. So like timing your pops really well just kind of like keeps this deck going, it makes it like grind better. Dagda, it's pretty obvious. Hauka Fibrax. So you saw the one Baylor. The one Baylor like is utility as a hand trap, but it's also to summon off this because you can go Hout into Celine, and then Celine will gain the tokens, especially if you've played with like the adventure cards, because you'll have at least 3 in rotation, and then you can just go for the access code OTK. If this gets ogred, like when you activate it, you bring out your own Ghost Ogre because this only negates the effects of that card that it brings out until the end of the turn. Then you have a live ogre on your opponent's turn, so it's basically like searching an interruption off of like the card numbers or getting hit off
its own monster version of Etel.
Then we play the 2 Charmers, so the Light Charmer and the Dark Charmer. A lot of your monsters are light and dark, so you can go into these pretty easy. This is nice just because like your Eldlich cards are light, and it's like an easy generic link to go into. And sometimes, like if your opponent plays a light, you can bring it back and still do the Celine combo. But Dark is by far my favorite, and this will be Starlight the next time you see this. It's coming in tomorrow. I just didn't have it tonight.
Oh yeah, cannot wait.
Yeah, this can just steal DPE. So if you baited your opponent and you take their DPE and you just hold on to it, they've lost like a huge resource because usually at that point, the game's grinding and stealing one of their like abilities to grind is really good.
We're busy.
Yeah, we're busy. And it does the same thing. Like you can go into Celine with this because it's a spellcaster.
He got it.
And then we have Nightmare Phoenix. It's a general utility card, and a lot of your link ones point down, so you can go into Phoenix, discard a card, like pop a Floodgate or something like that, and still get your draw. It's just nice utility. I have tested Unicorn, and Unicorn just didn't come up because like I'm doing the Celine combo a lot, which is just like a lot of your cards go into like a spellcaster link too, or Hout can go into this since like it just takes one spellcaster, and then you just OTK your opponent with like access code and whatever resources you have. And the last 2, access code and DPE, they're pretty self-explanatory. Pretty much every deck is playing these. This just helps clear boards and push for an OTK, and this is just like your pressure and your
That pressure pop if you don't have the response or your card's dying.
And the side deck is very just like, this is a me thing. My side deck's been pretty much the same the entire format, not really changing like on what deck I'm playing, because I feel like these cards are kind of mandatory to play. So for the hand traps, Gamma is just in and of itself, like in a vacuum, the strongest hand trap. So you side this in pretty much every matchup. And then Bell can hit a lot of things. Bell can hit Water Enchantress's effect to banish itself, because Water Enchantress can add back from the graveyard. And then it's just like a general utility card. So like if your opponent DPEs and that's the only thing in chain, you can hit it so the DPE doesn't come back. It's just good in certain matchups. So I usually side this in when I'm playing against a deck I know plays the adventure cards. These are for like more mid-range decks and back row decks. I find myself still siding these in against Sword Soul, because some people still don't respect the fact that this is like a card, and they'll put their cards in attack. And you know, it's good because it'll clear things like Blackout, and sometimes they'll still set their droplets, and you know, you can just wipe a board that way. It's really nice.
They don't respect the lightning.
Exactly. And then the Feather Duster, it's just good against back row decks. I really only sided in like against Eldlich. I side these in going first. If I want to make a quick play and I don't want to like make myself really susceptible to hand traps, I can skip Dagged and go straight to Predaplant Verte, and then make the DP and then set this. So I don't have to worry about like, you know, droplating my DP and losing that interaction. So you can just shotgun this instead, and then it forces like an interaction from your opponent. This thing also set Lancia, and Lancia's in the main.
Oh my god, Lancia's so strong.
And then Red Reboot, because it's Red Reboot. In different iterations, this has been Pankratops, because like you can put Pank in more matchups than you can Red Reboot. Red Reboot's just more impactful. I tested Pank, and it just like didn't feel super great in the matchups I sided. Like it's still good, like it does a lot, but this is
You
just
Red
better.
Reboot them, it's game.
Yeah, and then we got the tokens, the Rock and the Ojamas. So that's pretty much it. Yeah, that's the deck. It's been working out really well so far. I love playing this. I wouldn't want to play another deck right now.
Thank you. Appreciate your time.